On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, we jump right into local college football with a preview of the OU Iowa State game with Travis Hines. Travis covers Iowa State for two different newspapers and also does radio there in Iowa. Also, we discuss Oklahoma State's tough matchup with Kansas. In the National College Football Roundup, we look at some of the big news in college football and talk about a few of the games we're looking forward to this weekend. We give you our winners and losers of the week and wet the beak with Sunday's matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. To finish up, we discuss the big merger between two Oklahoma businesses in Keepin It Local. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. My man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Thursday, October 1st, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts couldn't be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank at First Fidelity Bank. Now, we're recording this on Wednesday night during game one of the NBA Finals. I'll just say it now. Miami Heat in 6. I like it. I think they're the grittier team. I know that the Lakers have the two best players with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but it just seems like there's something about the Heat this year. Teddy, I know that we've gotten away from talking about basketball ever since football started and the Thunder got eliminated from the playoffs, but I love what I've seen from the Miami Heat. And they've got like 4 or 5 guys that can guard LeBron. And that zone has given everyone trouble that they've thrown at people. So I like the Heat. I think they got a better shooting team as well. Give me the Heat.
I love the pick. I really do. I love the pick. I do not want to watch the Lakers win a championship. I do not want to watch LeBron James win a championship. Call me a hater if you would like. I hope the Heat win it. What I'm worried about with the Heat is I don't know that anyone expected him to be here. It's going to be a cruise for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be there in the end against the Lakers or the Clippers. It's a done deal. So I'm worried that the Heat feel like we're on house money, whatever. From this point on, we made the NBA Finals. No one expected that. And maybe they lose a game or two early and they just kind of throw in the towel. Hopefully they don't do that, but that's my worry. But I do love the grittiness, the scrappiness, all of that.
I don't think Jimmy Butler would let him do that.
You may be right, man.
I believe this with every ounce of my being. Jimmy Butler thinks he's better than LeBron. He does. He's the only guy on that court that's like, you know what? I'm better than that guy. And that attitude, I love it. And I think you can see it with that team. Clearly, Hero has never seen a shot he doesn't like, and he probably should be that way because the dude could shoot the absolute lights out of the ball. Duncan Robinson's kind of found his groove. I like the Heat, man. We'll see, but Heat and 6. That's what I'm saying.
There's nothing I would love more for them to do that. And a guy that nobody knew before the bubble in Hero, all of a sudden being a national icon for hitting a game winner against LeBron would be total 2020, and I'm down for that.
Well, I just don't know who the Lakers' third guy is. That's my concern. It's like I trust like 5 guys for Miami, but it's LeBron, Anthony Davis, and then what? Playoff Rondo? Like Kuzma? I don't know, man. Give me the Heat. Come on, Heat.
Let's go.
No one wants to see the Lakers win. All right, let's move on to local college football. And that's brought to you by Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coop Ale Works. Guys, stop acting like you're too manly and just accept it. Hard seltzers are amazing. And there's only one hard seltzer that we drink on this podcast, and that is Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coop Ale Works. It's perfect for any occasion. We drink it by the pool, at the lake, and at the tailgate. It's made in Oklahoma, and it is absolutely delicious. Will and Wiley is customized for the Oklahoma lifestyle. Go find it right now in a store near you, and go follow them on social media at Will and Wiley. If you're drinking some because of us, tag us in your social media posts to let them know. We're starting to get tagged in a lot of those, and I like it.
I like it.
Few bits of OU news before we preview OU Iowa State with Travis Hines. This just in, they aren't happy that they lost last weekend. I don't know if you could tell from all the things that Lincoln Riley and the players have said in their media availability. Can you believe that, Ted? They don't like losing.
I don't get it. I don't get it with this group. I don't understand that.
It's just like people writing articles about it. I'm like, I guess. Okay. All right. Now, two important pieces of news. Doesn't sound like Braden Willis will be available this weekend. We all saw him take that nasty shot to the knee against K-State. Got put in a bad spot there. There's no doubt. But so we're going to have to see, guys like Mikey Henderson, Jeremiah Hall. They're going to ask Stogner to do some more things. So luckily, Shane Beamer has a lot of options in that tight end and H-back room, but you hate to see a guy like Willis miss the opener because of Corona and then gets hurt in his first game of the year. That just sucks because he's a hardworking player. He gives them versatility, formational versatility, hard matchup for defenses, does a lot of the dirty work. So just hate it for that kid. That sucks.
Yeah, I do too. He brings some really good size and athleticism to that position. I will say, though, shockingly, I guess it's not shocking, but Oklahoma has like 5 guys at that position that you trust to put out there. So,
right.
Mikey Henderson, who's a guy that looked fantastic in week 1. I don't even know that he saw the field in week 2 because Braden Willis was back, and that's just how good that group is. They've got 3 guys that can go, and I wouldn't expect to have much fall off there with Mikey Henderson back in, and still be a good bunch that blocks well. And we've seen that group provide tons of big plays so far, just 2 weeks in.
Yeah, and lastly, sounds like we're going to see Obi Obialo for the first time. They were very excited with what they saw from him in training camp. They like him a lot. Sounds like he's healthy enough to go. So this is really boring, and I know it's boring, but wide receiver blocking is going to be very important in this football game. This is an old guy, a physically mature guy that's not going to be afraid to mix it up with those physical defensive backs from Iowa State. So clearly I'm excited to see what he can do as a receiver, but this also gives you a more physical presence in the slot, a guy that can mix it up a little more, because that's one thing that's really difficult is these wide receivers having to dig out these secondary support players, these safeties spinning down from everywhere. That middle safety they call kind of a robber guy, him coming in, factoring into the run fit. Like, wide receiver blocking is hard against this Iowa State team. So I'm excited to see Obialo for more than one reason. I think he'll mix it up as a blocker as well.
Well, I agree, although I don't know that you ever want to be known as a good blocker whenever you're a wide receiver. That's like – even though I agree with you 100%. But here's the thing. It's not just the running game. Whenever they play those drop 8 coverages, big zone where they've got 5 under and 3 deep, you've got to – whenever the ball goes to someone else underneath, you got to turn and pick up those guys because they're all spread all over the field. So blocking down the field's big too. And while I thought Drake Stoops had a really nice game catching the football, he did have some trouble in the slot blocking some of those safeties and nickels whenever they were trying to get some of that bubble stuff going on. And it'd be probably helpful to have a bigger body out there at times. So, yeah, I'm anxious to see him. We heard all kinds of great stuff about him throughout training camp, and we're week 3. We still haven't seen him yet, so I'm anxious to see what he's got.
For those that don't know, he's number 82, I think. I'm not sure. Did I just make that up? I think he's 82.
That'll be so weird to see a wide receiver in the 80s number, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a while. That's a great point.
I don't even know who the last one is. Maybe there was one last year, but I don't know. I'm used to the single digits at this point.
Yeah. All right. We're going to continue doing the thing where we bring someone on that covers the opponent. Now, last week we had Klatt because he was calling the game, of course. This week we've got Travis Hines, who covers Iowa State for the Ames Tribune and the Des Moines Register, and also does radio in Des Moines at KXNO. So this man has watched about as much Iowa State football as you can possibly watch. So we really appreciate talking to him. It's a great conversation. Here it is. It's our pleasure to be joined by Travis Hines. Travis does so much. He writes for the Ames Tribune and Des Moines Register, and also has a radio show on KXNO in Iowa. So you study Iowa State from all angles, all mediums.
Really try to. Get it print, video, radio, all the above.
I would ask you what you do with your free time, but I don't think you have any, right?
Not much.
Now, I want to dive right into the Cyclones, especially kind of the differences you've seen from them in their loss against Louisiana, which was a tough opener, there's no doubt, and then their win last week over TCU. What have you seen? What kind of progression have you seen from them from game 1 to game 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Louisiana game was really almost what you would expect in a year like this, where Iowa State had no spring ball, had basically a truncated fall camp. It was sloppy. I think you look at the special teams giving up 2 return touchdowns. You had drop passes all over on the offense. The defense was mostly good, which you would expect from Iowa State and coordinator John Haycock, but you give up 2 special teams touchdowns and your offense can't move the ball. I don't know that it was surprising, and certainly to your point, Louisiana is a solid team, but Iowa State I just don't think was ready to go in that opener for whatever reason. Fast forward 2 weeks later, I think they were really able to practice for 2 weeks. If you ask Matt Campbell, that was really what he said. We actually got to practice with pads on, play full-speed football with the most of our team. And you saw that. It was much crisper, and I think you can't take for granted either that Iowa State had some guys back from injury in that second game, most notably Charlie Kolar at the tight end position. He's not only Brock Purdy's security blanket, but he's a dynamic tight end that really has to be accounted for by defenses, and I think that really helped in the passing game. And then you saw Breece Hall in the running game, really explode for 155 yards. Kene Nwangu hit one for 49 and a touchdown. Everything just seemed to work better. It's certainly, they have a long way to go. It was still not sharp. It still was not crisp. The defense, I thought, got hit a little harder than I would have anticipated from a TCU team that hadn't played yet. But altogether, I think it was the progression you'd like to see from week 1 to week 2. But, Iowa State's now in a hole with that week 1 loss, and now you've got an angry Oklahoma team presumably coming to Ames this weekend. So it's kind of put up or shut up time for Iowa State. They've got to be playing close to their best football, really here this first week of October, or the goals that they had hoped for at the start of the season are going to be incredibly difficult for them to pull off.
One of the things for me with Iowa State, I've liked since Campbell got there, I like what this team's about. They're a well-coached bunch, which is kind of shocking. Now, this year, the Louisiana game, I'm giving freebies whenever teams didn't show up and look good in week 1, not knowing what their training camp looked like, not knowing what the roster looked like. I'm giving freebies there. But one of the things I've seen with Iowa State is they haven't started seasons well. And when they've had these big opportunities for like program changing wins where they finally got expectations behind them, people are looking at Iowa State saying, wow, I think this team's about to get over the hump. They haven't been able to win those football games. What do you think is maybe different about this year's group than the past 2-3 years?
I think if you're an Iowa State fan, you're looking, okay, why is this team different? I think a lot of it is these guys are all Matt Campbell program players at this point. You look earlier, you have a lot of holdovers, or the guys that were brought in were very young. And this is still a pretty young football team. In that week 1 game against Louisiana, they had, I think, 29 guys play that were either underclassmen or making their Iowa State debut. So it's still a pretty young team, but now all these guys, for the most part, 2, 3, 4, and in some cases 5 years in the system. And that early season stuff is a problem. They're 7-11 in the first month under Campbell. They've been really good in October. They've only lost 1 game in October the last 3 years. But to your point, they still dropped some games last year where they almost had Oklahoma late. They lose by 2 to Baylor in September. They've got to figure out how to win close games and how to win big games. And this group does have experience, even if they're still a little young. They've been in these big games. And again, it's time for them to take that next step if they're ever going to do it.
Now, Travis, Brock Purdy played about as bad as we've seen him play in the opener. But then last week bounces back with a nice performance other than that hilarious turnover, which I don't know what the hell that was. But is he living up to expectations? This is a guy that came into this season, a whole lot of hype, people talking about, high round draft pick. If he were to come out, what have you seen from Brock Purdy? And do you think that he started the season the way that people expected him to start it?
He definitely has not lived up to expectations, but it's been 2 games. And I think, to Teddy's point, you probably get a pass for that first game because, I don't know how much Iowa State was really able to get into fall camp. He was without Kolar, and you look at the wide receiving group, it's pretty slim pickings. They lose their top 2 from last year in Deshaunte Jones and LaMichael Petway, both of which not only were they their best wide receivers, but they were really their only playmaking wide receivers. So the first game against Louisiana was rough. He looked legitimately poor in that game. I think other than one of the weirdest plays I've ever seen in any player do in the last 10 or 15 years, he was pretty good against TCU. I think he's still not fully comfortable. And you look at it, he was without their top returning receiver last year. Tariq Milton was out with an injury. So I think they are struggling to spread the field a little bit. But I think it was certainly an improvement from week 1 to week 2. You get Kolar back. And I think that really does change things. I don't want to overemphasize, a single tight end who made 5 catches for 50 yards, but it does change the dynamic of that offense. And I think, it'll be interesting to see where we get to in week 3 with him. But, to say he's lived up to expectations, no, but he still was pretty good against TCU, but wasn't that dynamic, game-changing quarterback that I think you would expect or hope to see for somebody who is, whispers of Heisman candidacy or first or second round draft pick. No, he has not been that yet, but it's still early.
What's it been like around there? And I know obviously this year with the virus situation, it's definitely different, but you've got a team that's got high expectations. You talked about, even floating the Heisman type of stuff out there for Purdy. It's been it's that type of possibilities. What's the buzz been like around there? Because it's got to be a weird feeling to think that we've got Campbell, we've got the opportunity to have a special season, maybe win a Big 12, but in the back of your head, you're thinking, if Iowa State wins the Big 12, Matt Campbell's going to get a job offer at a big-time program.
Yeah, I think the Campbell concern has been really ever-present since probably year 2. Obviously, when Urban Meyer, announced that he was retiring at Ohio State, the alarm bells went off huge there because Campbell's from Ohio State, or from Ohio. And I think there is a understanding that it's possible that he leaves, if not probable, just because he's a coach not even in his 40s. It's highly unlikely he finishes his career at Iowa State, just because that means, a quarter century at one place. And I think when you're Iowa State too, and you've seen coaches both in football and men's basketball leave for greener pastures, usually more money, right? You kind of get used to it. And I think Iowa State fans would gladly take a Big 12 title, even if it meant leaving Matt Campbell. I mean, you look at the history of the Iowa State program. They haven't won a conference title, I think, since like 1908 when they were in the Missouri Valley Conference. So I think if you got a chance to get it, you go get it if you're an Iowa State fan.
That was a good year in the Missouri Valley Conference, though.
That was a good year for the MVC.
That 08 year was great.
Great year. Great year. Now, Travis, I do want to ask you, and you touched on Brees Hall, but the second I saw him step on the field last year, I was like, okay, this guy's got something. And he's looked the part. He looks even better. He looks faster. He looks stronger this year. Now, we thought this was going to be an offense that relied heavily on Brock Purdy and what he can do with his accuracy and his athleticism. But it seems like they really want to lean on that run game. And that's something they really haven't been able to do in the past because of their offensive line issues. Are they playing better up front, or is it just Brees Hall's a special guy, kind of a combination of the two? What's going on for Iowa State offensively?
I think it is a combination. Campbell has thought that this could be their best offensive line that he's had here, which is not exactly a high bar to clear. I mean, we spent, 3 years watching David Montgomery get hit 2-3 yards in the backfield and still having 150-yard games because he's a special type of player. So now you get Brees Hall, who Campbell and offensive coordinator Tom Manning have compared favorably to David Montgomery. And again, remember, these are guys that not only recruited and coached David Montgomery, they also did the same with Kareem Hunt at Toledo. These guys know running backs. And I think that they feel really good about, especially if they get to fully healthy. They're missing their starting left guard, Trevor Downing, who they're hoping will be back soon. But they think this is their most talented group of offensive linemen, and that they have a little bit of continuity, and that this can be, when healthy, their best. And you put a Brees Hall back there who, again, is not David Montgomery, but maybe is within shouting distance of him in terms of talent, that, yeah, you can make this a run-first offense even with a guy like Brock Purdy. So in that way, that allows that wide receivers to kind of catch up to speed, because I do think they're a little bit behind where they would like to be in that passing game right now.
Now, whenever you think about Iowa State and the way that they've played in recent years, which I think is fantastic, defensively, a lot of three-man rush, sit back in big zone, make teams throw it underneath, rally up and tackle, wait for them to make a mistake, kind of a bend but don't break philosophy, and really conservative on the offensive end. And that helps their defense. We've seen teams that had that mindset, but then as they developed as a program, opened it up offensively, whether it's better personnel there or whatever, and in turn that has hurt the defense. Is that a worry this year, knowing that there's a little bit more high power of an offense, that maybe you're going to yield something on the defensive side?
I don't think right now. I think TCU hurt Iowa State early in the run game last Saturday, and Iowa State was able to make adjustments and really clamp down. But I think if you asked the coaching staff what they're excited about this defense, is I think they've got more playmakers at more positions than maybe that they've had. Jaquan Bailey missed most of last year with a leg injury, comes back, has 3.5 sacks against TCU. They get Latrell Bankston, who was one of the best junior colleges recruits a year ago, comes in, already has, I think, 2 sacks through 2 games. Mike Rose, we saw that interception against TCU, a guy who started as a true freshman at middle linebacker, has moved to the outside and continues to be a really strong presence. I think the secondary is still a little bit of a work in progress, but they do have experience back there. But I think what they feel really good about is that they can be a bend but don't break defense, but they still have playmakers at important parts on the field defensively to swing games on that side of the ball, not just, bide their time for the offense to break through.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the Bankston kid, because he stood out to me. I mean, I watched every snap of that Louisiana game and watched every snap they played against TCU. And that's going to be an interesting matchup, because obviously Creed Humphrey, arguably the best center in the country, but he is a tall guy. I don't think people realize how tall Creed actually is. And Bankston is not. That is a guy that has a ton of leverage. And I was kind of a tall center as well. And those short, squatty, 600, 700-pound squatters, those were the hardest dudes to block. So I'm interested in that matchup, Travis. I think that could be something to watch.
Without a doubt. And Bankston is interesting for Iowa State too, because the last few years they leaned on Ray Lima to be a great interior defensive lineman, but he was not a pass rusher. He was a guy that would stop the run and eat up blocks and try to make things easier for the linebackers and the ends, where Bankston, we've seen, can get pressure up the middle. So that is a new dynamic that, I think a concern for a lot of Iowa State fans is, has the Big 12 kind of caught up to Iowa State's scheme? And I think having this new wrinkle in the middle that can really change things is an ace in the hole for them.
I just think it's really amazing sitting here talking about Iowa State, which, before Campbell got there was not very good in the Big 12 for a long time. But with the guys that we're talking about defensively between Rose and Eisworth and Jaquan Bailey, and then the guys on offense, Purdy led the Big 12 in passing last year, Brees Hall, Kolar. Legitimately, we're talking about Iowa State personnel-wise being as good as almost anyone in the conference outside of maybe Oklahoma and Texas. And I think on this year you could throw Oklahoma State, into the Oklahoma-Texas category, but on a typical year they're not there. How has Campbell been able to get this caliber of player into Iowa State?
I think that they cast a wide net recruiting. They have taken heat locally and a little bit nationally for putting out, I think, the third or fourth most offers of any program in the country. But I think when you're a new staff like they were, and you're essentially recruiting to a South conference in terms of, Texas heavy when they're coming from the Midwest, I think that makes sense to do that. But I think that they've really been able to target guys that they like and get in on them early, get them on campus, and sell them on a vision. And I think that's made a huge deal. And you look again, David Montgomery plays as a true freshman. Brees Hall plays as a true freshman. Brock Purdy plays as a true freshman. Mike Rose, you just go down the line. Not only have they gotten really talented players in, they brought in talented players that can play from day one and then build them up from there. And I think that is a huge asset for them when you really do have to be a developmental program at Iowa State, because you're not getting 5-star players. You're not getting 4-star players either. So you need to get those guys. You got to have an eye for them, and then you got to build them up. And I think they've been really successful doing that now in year 5.
And I bet it helps quite a bit having guys like Montgomery, Lazard.
Dude, Lazard has turned into like Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy other than Devontae Adams.
He better not sit out too long.
That hammy better get right. Now, Travis, do want to ask you about the atmosphere in Ames. I talked to Jamie Pollard quite a bit over on my SiriusXM show, and they had plans for the crowd. Then there was the outbreak there in Ames, and then the state of Iowa. Sounds like there's going to be fans, and I saw the jerseys that Iowa State's going to rock for this one. It seems like it should be a good atmosphere, right, for this football game.
Yeah, they're going to have 15,000 people in there, just 1,000 students. It's normally like 61,000 is capacity at Jack Trice Stadium. So it's not going to be anything close to a, home field advantage that you would otherwise expect when you're bringing in Oklahoma in for a night game on ABC in Ames. But I do think that those 15,000 fans are going to do their best to be as loud as they can. That is, it is enclosed a little bit in there because it's, within the hillsides there. So it can get a little loud, but I think Iowa State is ready for this game. I think you look what happened in 2017. You look what happened last year. Iowa State plays some of its best football against Oklahoma. And again, nobody's backs against the wall the first week in October. But both of these programs are kind of looking, they're feeling a little bit of heat. Oklahoma with what happened last week. Iowa State with, significant doubt after losing to Louisiana, and with a shortened schedule. I don't think anybody's really looking to get behind the 8 ball the first week in October. So I do expect there to be some tension, some urgency within that building on Saturday night, even if you're looking at something closer to 15 or 20% capacity.
Well, I know it's going to be loud. They could have 0 fans in there, but Iowa State has the best sound system in all of college football.
They ponied up big time for that video board, the sound stuff. Yeah, they weren't messing around with that.
Oh my God, it's so loud, and it sounds good. There's a difference between just being loud and sounding good. It sounds good. What do you think? I don't know how much of Oklahoma you've watched. Obviously, you're a busy man, but whenever you look at this matchup, what do you think is going to be the difference one way or the other? What part of the game, whether it's a personnel matchup or offense versus defense, what do you think is going to be the real deciding factor?
I think it will be, can Iowa State move the ball through the air? Because I think they're going to try to get Rattler to turn the ball over. I don't know how much success they'll have. With what happened last week, I got to imagine Oklahoma's going to have a game plan that's going to, keep him safe. I think Breece Hall will be able to get some yardage. I don't think he'll run wild. And then it comes to me, can the wide receivers for Iowa State, who have struggled to get separation, do that against Oklahoma? And I think that's a tall task to ask, but I think it's got to happen. Iowa State, I don't think, can do 3 yards in a cloud of dust for 60 minutes against Oklahoma. They're going to need to stretch the field. And you're asking wide receivers who have yet to show that they can do that to do it against one of the best teams in the country, that 16th ranking, notwithstanding, because I think we all expect Oklahoma to be there, once we get into November as one of the best teams in the country. And so I think that's a tall task for those Iowa State receivers, but I think that's their best path towards a victory on Saturday night.
Well, it should be a good one, boys. Travis, we really appreciate the time, man. Really, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good stuff.
Man, Ted, that was great conversation with our man Travis Hines. That dude knows Iowa State. Holy shit.
You found the one. You found the guy that knows everything there is to know about Iowa State.
Yeah, and a few other things before we move on to someone calling their shot. I think Rattler's going to have to be patient. That's a huge piece of this football game. He's a young quarterback. He clearly likes to make the big play. I mean, what quarterback doesn't? But Iowa State essentially eliminates that. They dare you to play boring football. They kind of hope that you get bored of gaining 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. That's what their defense is. And you've talked about it a lot, Ted. Rattler, he's going to have to take what the defense is going to give him. He's going to have to find that 3 safety look. He's going to have to diagnose what's going on in the back end with how they invert some of their coverages, all the things they do back there with their corners and safeties. I mean, it's confusing. It's high-level stuff, and no one does it better than Iowa State. So I hate to say it, but Rattler may just have to play a boring game. That's kind of what this defense forces you to do.
Yep. I mean, there is no doubt about that. They will, it's the big concept. It's like, if you're coming into this league, and this is what I like about what Campbell's done, you have a sit down with your coaching staff and you say, listen, we don't have the personnel the rest of this conference does. We don't, we're not going to have the quarterback. We're not going to have the skill guys. How in the world can we stay in football games? And we cannot, under any circumstances, give up big chunk plays. We just can't do it. We're not going to be able to score. So even though it's not sexy, we're going to rush 3 and we're going to drop 8. We're going to have 3 deep and 5 underneath. We're going to spread the net all the way across the field, and we're going to make teams, deke and dunk down the field. We're going to rally up and tackle. We're going to vice guys in zone coverage, and that's what they've done really well. And one of the things that can really change those big drop 8 coverages is a athletic quarterback. Because once an athletic quarterback breaks contain or gets outside the pocket, you manipulate the net, right? You've got 3 deep, you've got 5 underneath, they're spread across the hash marks, and everyone's got their spacing. But when the quarterback breaks contain and gets outside, there's a tendency for that zone to break down, and a player will step up or will run across the field, and someone will find a window. So we've seen Spencer get outside the pocket, and he's done some good stuff outside the pocket. He's also played with fire outside the pocket. If there's a drop 8 and you scramble to your right and buy time and you throw that football late across the middle, what's going to happen, Gabe?
Greg Eisworth is going to appear out of nowhere and catch the football and take it the other way.
That's exactly right. So you're going to create that space, and you can create some opportunities to make some plays and to move the chains. But if you start trying to skip that sucker back across the middle, it's going the other direction. So he's got to be extremely careful. And I mean, even coming off of a game where maybe you didn't play well, you turned the ball over quite a bit, there's going to be even more pressure to go out and try and take some big chunks and prove yourself to your teammates and to your fans. That's why I think this is a dangerous defense and a dangerous game for Spencer Rattler. He's got to be patient. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and you mentioned him getting out of the pocket. Going back to what Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray did against Iowa State. It's not necessarily like called QB run game.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting out of the pocket and getting 8 yards and picking up a first down. Spencer Rattler's going to run more than we've seen him run in the first 2 games. And it's not going to be like cold runs necessarily. It's going to be moving those chains when he sees that deep zone coverage and he's like, you know what? I can just run to that stick right there and we get a new set of downs. And I think he'll do that quite a few times. He has to do it, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what's great, though. I mean, for them, Iowa State somehow drops 8 guys and they get home with 3. And the last time we saw that was Baylor that did that quite a bit, where they were getting home with 3 with Lynch off the outside and that gigantic dude up the middle.
Bravion Roy.
If you can get home with 3, and I mean, you don't even have to get a sack, but if you can create some pressure and make the quarterback have to rush a throw or get rid of it just a little bit quicker than he wants to, and you got 8 droppers on the back end, that's trouble.
Yeah, one weird thing about Iowa State's defensive ends, they play boundary and field. They don't play left or right like you see a lot of teams in college football. So Jaquan Bailey's going to be moving around. I mean, he's going to be over Swinson or Harrison, whichever guy gets the nod at left tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Swinson, just to see how he holds up, because Swinson's a more mature, physical guy. Doesn't move as well as Harrison, but you may want to try him on a strong dude like Jaquan Bailey first, see how he holds up before you throw the freshman out there against the guy that had 3.5 sacks last week.
Welcome to the Big 12, freshman.
Yeah, but they're going to have to chip Bailey at times with a back or a tight end, a guy in a wing position, and I think they should do it early. Teddy, you know how it works for those defensive ends. You chip them.
Head on the swivel, baby.
Yeah, early in the game, all of a sudden, rest of the game, they're looking around. Those eyes are going different places. So I think they'll do some of that stuff. They should do some of that stuff. All right, Ted, let's move on to Call Your Shot. And Call Your Shot is brought to you by Rock and Roll Tequila. Rock and Roll Tequila is the ultra premium tequila that hits all the right notes. It's won all kinds of awards for its superior taste and smooth finish. To find a store that has it, visit rockandrolltequila.com or check out their Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. This stuff is good. If you don't want to take my word for it, maybe you'll listen to this guy.
This is Coach Bob Stoops. When you're a college football coach, it's important to have an eye for talent. The same holds true when choosing your tequila. When I tried Rock and Roll, I liked it so much, I decided to become a partner in this Oklahoma-owned company. Crafted in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico, the smooth taste of Rock and Roll's triple distilled platinum, our añejo called Cristalino, and the incredible premium quality mango tequila are awesome. Our defiantly unique guitar-shaped bottles make it easy to find, and you'll love the ultra-premium quality and taste. No excuses. Make Rock and Roll your game day tequila. Tastefully rebellious, start the party with Rock and Roll.
And Ron Hubble at Hubs0412 on Twitter is calling his shot, Ted, and he says, OU 41-6. Defense forces 4 turnovers, one being a strip sack TD, hashtag OU hope. Some pretty lofty goals from our man Ron. Whoa.
I'll take it 41-6. I think we're going to have more of a challenge than that. But if we force how many 4 turnovers and don't give any up ourselves, then we can pull off a game like that. And all it takes is a play like what we saw Purdy do against TCU to score on defense.
I still can't get over that.
Hoist a ball backwards over your head across the field.
The only positive for Brock Purdy on that play it got ruled a fumble and not an interception because it
Is it
actually
the lateral?
went backwards.
Amazing. I
Which
I
is
was watching
incredible.
the game on YouTube, like just kind of like popping forward through it, and I was like, wait, hang on a second. What did
What
I
the hell
just
was
see there?
that? What tarnation?
Watching him go over and stand next to the coach with his helmet on and get scolded with the coach saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" That's pretty funny.
The best part, if you go back and watch that, and I encourage everyone to do so. The Van Zant kid from TCU is like, what the
Is
fuck?
this the
He's just
ball?
like, what is this? Like,
I'm totally out of the play. I'm behind it and all the way across the field. The only thing better is, Ellinger essentially did that in an overtime game one time when was that against Oklahoma State?
oh my gosh, I forgot about that. He was probably concussed. Okay,
Oh, he
Ted.
definitely was.
Let's touch on it just because it is a game that is being played. Oklahoma State traveling to Lawrence to take on the mighty Jayhawks. We'll see if Spencer Sander goes. Can't imagine that they'd rush him. I don't really think they need him, and they've got a bye week next week. So they could get that ankle of his some serious rest, and I think they can get by with Illingworth, especially the way they've been playing on defense, the way that they've been playing on special teams. Those have been the difference makers for him anyways. So I'm sure Mike Gundy is watching that offense, and he's like, okay, we need to get back on track. I need my quarterback, but I would hope that they resist that temptation and just roll with Illingworth because I think he'll be fine. I think he's proven that he's not going to make any critical errors. I don't think they're asking him to do too much. Looks like they have him reading half the field, kind of like we talked about with Whedon a couple weeks ago. But with the way that LD Brown and Chuba Hubbard are running the ball, Kansas has almost given up 200 yards a game on the ground. So just hand it to those guys. Maybe you let
They're going to give up 200 a player to that group.
Yeah, maybe you let Illingworth throw it around a little more because it seems like, he's earned a little trust in these last two games. But as far as Kansas's offense, they still got Puka, Stephon Robinson. Now, the Parchment kid has been mysteriously quiet through their first couple, but they've already played three quarterbacks. Now, I liked some of the stuff I saw from the Jalen Daniels kid, the freshman against Baylor. I mean, first drive of that game, he takes them right down the field. 80-yard drive, touchdown. Next drive, right down the field. They go for it on 4th and 1, get stuff. They never get any more offensive momentum going in that game. It was really, really weird. But I think the difference, so OU should beat their ass. That Oklahoma State pass rush seems like they should get after that Kansas offensive line. Now, Kansas is not an easy place to play. I've said it a ton. It's like playing football in a morgue. But this one, I can't imagine this one's close at all, Ted.
Well, this year you're going to be used to playing in that type of environment, so maybe
point.
it's not nearly as much of a factor. I don't think it's going to be close either. They can clearly get through this football game without playing Spencer Sanders. And who's going to get that bonus week because they're going into a bye. But, I mean, if he's healthy, if he's above 90%,
oh, you play.
I'm playing him. I'm not going to play him a ton, but he needs to get some rhythm with this offense, even if it's handing the ball off 25 times, and throwing it 5. He needs to get some rhythm. He needs to get, some flow out there. You can never replicate game reps. You just can't.
No doubt.
So he's had very few of those. Training camp this year was weird for everyone. No telling how much actual time he got there. If I can do it and I feel comfortable with my offensive line and protecting him and I can keep people off of him, there's never a guarantee, but I'm going to try and get him some time. I will. Which, if he goes out there and rolls it or someone falls on it and he takes a shot and you set yourself back, you're going to answer the question, why in the world would he be playing against Kansas? But you got to have some type of rhythm. Bye weeks are good sometimes, but This year, I don't know that a bye week is really that good. I think it's going to be better for teams to be playing and locked in through game week preparation and really be screwed in. So I don't know. He probably plays, but not very much. At
Right.
least if I was
Yeah,
calling the shots, that's how I'd handle it.
yeah, if he's healthy enough, I'm with you. If your starting quarterback's healthy enough, he plays. You play the kid. I mean, it's that simple. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. One other thing when it comes to local college football, our thoughts and prayers to our friends on the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. They're on the road against number 11 UCF. Yikes. I think that's going to be a rough one. I think that's going to be real rough. But you never know with
nice
Tulsa.
knowing you, Tulsa. It was a fun season. I know
Yikes.
the defense is going to be in shape by the time they get back. All that running they're going to be doing in that Florida heat, baby. It's going to be a lot easier from this point on.
Heupel's got that tempo dialed up at UCF.
Total offense for that Q for UCF against Tulsa, you think? 500 yards total offense?
I'll go 458 just to throw out a random number. And I'll say like 38 of that is rushing, and he has a rushing touchdown, along with maybe, 4 passing touchdowns? I don't know. But I don't like Tulsa's chances in that game. All right, Ted, let's move on to the National College Football Roundup. And that's brought to you by Insurica. Do you own a business? If you do, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. A few bits of college football news before we look at a couple of our favorite games coming up this weekend. Shaun Wade and Wyatt Davis have been cleared to play for Ohio State this season, and Rashad Bateman has been granted eligibility at Minnesota. I saw Cade Mays also got a waiver for to be able to play there at Tennessee, so that's good. The best players in college football playing college football, always good. Notre Dame had 18 players test positive this week for the coronavirus, and they have 25 players total in quarantine because they ate a pregame meal together, and some dude that tested positive was throwing up all over the sideline during their last game. That's what Brian Kelly said, man. That's what he said. Luckily, the Irish have a bye this weekend, Ted. I mean, just guy yakking his guts up. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm corona positive. Oh, my gosh. I bet those guys were so mad. Was there anyone
did you ever play with anyone that was a puker during games?
Dude, we had all kinds of pukers on our team. We had pregame pukers. That's the weirdest guy. The pregame puker.
Jason White, pregame puker every game right before we took the field.
Gross. At least go somewhere quiet. Like, I'm trying to take a pregame, like, get the last drops of poop out of me. And I got this guy next to me just yakking. Come on. Like, get it together, man.
What was your pregame meal go-to?
Ooh, I was a big fan. I ate pretty healthy. It was like the chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes. My favorite was always the snack before the night before the game.
Yeah, Lucky Charms, baby.
Wings, grilled cheese. Maybe grilled peanut butter and jelly. Oh,
whoa!
Let's get crazy.
Whoa!
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That? Huh. Oh yeah. Wasn't messing around.
I was pretty much just a fruit, grab an apple, some bananas, but boy, I'd hit the Lucky Charms hard.
How many are mini boxes, right? How many mini boxes we talking? 5?
Enough to where it didn't get awkward. Like, dude, are you taking all the Lucky Charms? I would go in burst of 3-round burst on my Lucky Charms box.
Okay, I'm gonna work this last piece of college football news in, and then I got a story. Larry Scott He suggested expanding the college football playoff to 8 teams this season, and the CFP said, no thanks, not this year. So that whole idea is dead.
Shocking. Hey, Larry, why do you want it to go to 8 teams this year?
Well, at least he tried. The effort matters. Okay, back to the pregame meal thing. And I'm not going to reveal what human being this was, but a teammate of mine in the National Football League, he would always, grab this handful of stuff and then he'd disappear to his room. And like the team I was playing for at the time, a bunch of the linemen, we'd like sit night before the game, talk, tell stories, laugh, just kind of that camaraderie time, right? And he'd just disappear. So finally one time we were like, what does he do? So I swear this is true. We bust into his room one time. He is laying on the bed on his back, and he has milk in his chest. Like there's milk, like he's got this little, like you have a little thing in your chest that can kind of hold some milk, like a little divot, right?
Yeah.
He's got milk in there. He has, I can't even remember. It was like, it wasn't that many. It was like 4 or 5 chocolate chip cookies sitting on his belly. And he is dipping the chocolate chip cookies into the milk on his chest. And I'm going, what the? It's still one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But that was his thing. That was his night before the game ritual.
Wow.
He was like, dude, I started doing it a long time ago. And I hopefully will never forget that because unbelievable. One of the best things I've ever seen.
Is disgusting. Would only happen with an offensive lineman.
No
And I'm laughing that was like his big thing. Like he can't wait. Boy, it's going to be fun scampering up to the room and pouring milk on my belly. Oh my God.
He needed some him time, man. Just some decompression, I suppose.
Wow.
Yeah, that was an eye opener. Okay. Ted, let's look at some of the games coming up this weekend. Couple really good ones in the SEC. Number 13, Texas A&M going to Tuscaloosa to take on number 2, Bama. Bama looked like Bama against Mizzou last week, and A&M did not look good. Ton of mistakes, 5 fumbles, lost 3 of them, barely got by Vandy. We'll see if Isaiah Spiller can get loose for the Aggies, see if that ground game can get going. But I have my doubts after seeing Bama's defense against Mizzou. I mean, just freaks everywhere per usual. It was fun seeing Dylan Moses back out there for Bama. He's a stud. If it comes down to Kellen Mond having to throw the ball, I don't really trust him. I don't like A&M's chances. And Mac Jones looks good. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris. I mean, they're just ridiculous. Bama has won 7 straight over A&M. 7.
I'd be shocked if Texas A&M wasn't pummeled unmercifully in this football game. Alabama showed up in the beginning of June, had their chickenpox party, and they had 6 weeks of practice before their first game. Haven't had a whole lot of guys miss. It's a bad sign when Nick Saban says the week before their first game, oh no, we really haven't had any problems with these guys. Practice has been been great. So it's
we
like,
got all 22 first rounders ready to roll.
yeah, they've been humming along like a well-oiled machine for the in football practice for almost 2 months now. So yeah, I think they're going to look good against Texas A&M.
And that's the game I'm most interested to see. I'm not going to lie, because Ted, doesn't it seem like it's about put up or shut up time for Texas A&M? I mean, Jimbo Fisher is getting paid a fortune. They're putting a fortune into the program. They've recruited at an incredible level. I mean, they're out of excuses. I know they had the brutal schedule last year, right? And it was one of the most difficult schedules we've ever seen in college football. I'll give them that. But they got to start winning some big games. And I want to make it clear, I don't think this is the one where they're going to start winning big games. But Kellen Mond's got to be better. They've got to be better defensively. They didn't look disciplined or well coached in their opener. Like, Jimbo's got to get it together with what he's getting paid and the type of players they're bringing in. They got to start seeing some results there. I mean, how many times can they win 8 games and it be okay with the amount of resources they're pumping into that program? It feels like, and a lot of people around there thought this was the year, right? Hey, we played that brutal schedule last year. All those guys got that experience. We're all coming back. I know they've had a couple guys opt out, and that hasn't helped them at all. But, I mean, they're out of excuses. It's time to win some damn big games in College Station.
Well, hey, they've been out of excuses for a long time. I think their last championship was like 1938 or something like that.
You sure they haven't claimed a fake one since then?
I don't know. They haven't won a conference championship since what, like 97 or 98?
98,
like
yeah.
Third year of the Big 12 or something like that. I mean, here's the bad news. They've got like $50 million left on Jimbo's contract, that 10-year, $7.5 million per contract. So that smarts a little bit. They're just flat out not good enough at quarterback. Kellen Mond is an okay talent. That's it.
How do they not have like a difference maker at quarterback? I don't understand. Like,
the last time they had a difference maker at quarterback was Manziel, and he went into Tuscaloosa, flipped everyone the double birds, and walked home with the W, and almost beat him the next year down there in College Station. They don't have a guy like that. They've always had good talent. I mean, talent wasn't an issue for them before they went to the SEC. They've had good talent. They just can't get anything done. They have way too high of an opinion of themselves. They have a culture problem.
Yeah, that may be the case. That may be the case. I'm really interested to see what happens in that football game because I think we are kind of leaning the same way. It could be a beatdown.
It could be, but hey, crazy things happen in college football.
Good point.
Rarely do you catch Texas A&M sleeping, especially at home. This isn't going to be the same type of home environment, Alabama's not it can be a semi-sleepy place to play because it's a
lot of old people. Yep.
Used to winning. And so I don't know. I mean, I'd be shocked. I haven't seen Kellen Mond look like a difference maker though yet in the SEC.
And Mac Jones, dude looked damn good against Missouri. I mean, that dude was ripping it. So many weapons. I mean, that team's ridiculous. All right, another big one in the SEC, number 7, Auburn going to number 4, Georgia. And this is an intriguing football game because the big mystery is who is Georgia's quarterback going to be in this football game. We saw Dwan Mathis get yanked in the Arkansas game. Stetson Bennett, who has the most SEC quarterback name of all time, Stetson. Good God. He played pretty well, though. I'll give him credit. Like, came in, did some good things for them, shifted the momentum of that game. But JT Daniels has been cleared in the last couple of days. So I got no idea what Kirby Smart's going to do with the quarterback position there. Now, speaking of quarterback, I don't think Bo Nix is great by any means right now, but he's serviceable and seems like he's making some good decisions with the football. I think he's gone like 218 passes or something like that without an interception. But this feels like a Gus Malzahn game where he can go in and win. But then I remember just how much talent Georgia has. And I know they've got some question marks on their offensive line, but Georgia has won every game at home against Auburn since 2005.
Oof.
So, and I know it's the SEC and it's weird. They're in different divisions and all that, but that's still a very long time. So I don't like where Georgia's quarterback situation is, but they are the more talented team. So I really don't know what is going to happen in this game. I have no clue what the quarterback situation is going to be for Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game. I lean Auburn. I fear that Georgia had a little bit of a burst when Kirby Smart got there. They had some attitude to him. Mel Tucker with that defense. They had some really special players defensively, and not that they've fallen off a big chunk on that side of the ball, but I feel like they had their moment. They played in a national championship game, didn't quite capitalize on it. They were close, and this is just a feeling thing for me. Maybe they go out and win the East again this year, but I fear that Georgia's going to fall back into what they were when Richt was there as a 10-win team every year, but couldn't win the SEC. Make a nice bowl game, but just could not challenge for a conference championship. I fear that may be about to happen with Georgia, and if they don't get the quarterback situation right, I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Now, Stetson Bennett is a hell of a name. It sounds like a grandpa. The only thing that would sound older than Stetson Bennett would be like Buford Bennett, but JT Daniels is a big talent, but I'm still waiting for JT Daniels to do something.
That's what part of me is like. Well, if JT Daniels just comes in for Georgia and just rips it and they win by 2 touchdowns, I think that's a possibility too.
That's
but
what they're going to have in the SEC. I mean, the days of trotting a really good defense out there and leaning on a running game and playing conservative football are over. And that ended whenever Nick Saban brought in Tua and started opening that offense up there. And then LSU with obviously with Burrow. So Trask, what's he got, like 6 touchdown passes over the last weekend? So the SEC has changed a little bit. So you're going to have a quarterback to win that conference. And JT Daniels is going to have to play like a 5-star.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a fun one. Another game that I think could be really interesting, TCU at number 9, Texas. Now, TCU has really given Texas trouble since they joined the Big 12, especially in Austin. TCU's 6-2 in the last 8 against Texas. They're 3-1 in the last 4 in Austin. And I know they lost last week, but we'll see if TCU can limit big plays. They gave up a weird amount, especially for a Gary Patterson defense. They gave up a ton of explosives to Iowa State last week. Now, Texas's offense is looking explosive with Ellinger. He's running the show. He's a good player, people. Just accept it. And the Josh Moore kid is starting to develop into his go-to wide receiver. He's pretty fun to watch. But that Texas defense, I mean, they were embarrassed by the way that they played against Tech, and they should be. That was not great. But TCU looked a lot better offensively when they brought Max Duggan in last week. So I think this is going to be a close football game. I really do. Gary Patterson, he has Herman's number a little bit. Like, he may just have Texas's number. You know how much this game means to some of those TCU kids who didn't get recruited by Texas and feel like they should be at Texas. You know exactly how that goes, Teddy. So I'm expecting a close football game. I would be very surprised if Texas wins this comfortably. Very, very surprised.
I mean, I get what you're talking about with the TCU kids, but I mean, you mentioned the numbers. TCU's won 5 out of the last 6, all of them by double digits, none of them really close. So the Texas kids should be going into this game pissed that they're not at TCU. That's how this thing really should be. I mean, why would a TCU
Why didn't
kid,
Gary Patterson want me?
Right. Why would a TCU kid be upset that he's not on the other team where his current team has pounded their ass 5 out of the 6 last times they've played? But I do get what you're saying. Duggan gave them something different whenever he was in. He's just big, he's athletic, he can move, he's got an
that
arm.
athleticism, man.
So, I was when I was watching some of that TCU Iowa State game today, and they hit on some nice plays. They hit on some big chunk plays against Iowa State. So a couple of things in the running game really opened up big for them. They hit a back on a nice, like they faked the power. They had 2 tailbacks in and split backs, faked the power, and the blocking back out of split backs ran a go route on the safety that was coming down in support. Just a really nice play design. They hit that for a touchdown. So I kind of like what I've seen so far from TCU's offense. I know that's their first game, and it was a loss to Iowa State. But
quick question. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think the Downing kid played that bad for them, the kid that got the start. But if Max Duggan starts that game, they win that game, right? Like, I'm not crazy. That offense,
it's hard to say.
I don't know if – I mean, they went to him, and you know how that works. Like, it can provide a spark on the sideline, all those things. But that kid is an athlete, man. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them add some more QB run game into this game plan against Texas. And, frankly, feel good about Duggan's safety because Texas still can't get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
They still can't. 0 sacks.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe they win that football game if it goes in. I know that's what they're kicking themselves right now saying. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a tight football game. I think Duggan's got a chance to do some really good things. Who knows, man? And honestly, like I was saying, like TCU, that was their first game. From what we've seen with people in their first game, they look pretty good, man. They've been –
that's a really good point.
3 or 4 different times they've had to shut down their entire operation because of the virus. And for the most part, they looked pretty sharp. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be this year, especially early. Unfortunately for us, most of our tough games are early. Early on, I think every game is going to be a crapshoot.
Yeah. We'll see. I think that's going to be a good one. Also in the Big 12, we've got Baylor going to Morgantown to play West Virginia, and we've got Tech going to Manhattan.
Tech's
either of those,
Kansas State.
Yeah, I decided that the second I saw it. When I looked at the schedule on Monday, I was like,
Kansas
you know what?
State has not played well after they've played. Like last year, they beat us, and then they beat Kansas, and then they lost like to West Virginia and I don't know, Oklahoma State. They shockingly can't. You would think that the way they play, they would show up week in, week out. Like that's kind of their thing, but they don't. It's like,
okay,
whatever.
Let's do some football math here. And what I mean is, so you've got the emotional letdown, right, of Kansas State coming off the OU win, right? And then you've got the depression that Tech has experienced from just a historic blown lead there against Texas. Which one is greater? Which one is the emotional letdown more of a detriment, or the general depression that Tech is experiencing? This is a little football math. Greater than, less than, greater than, equal to.
If you're just asking me to compare those two things with these two teams, I would say that Texas Tech has basically lived their entire tenure in a massive state of disappointment. So blowing a lead to Texas late is water off a duck's back. I think they're probably sitting around saying, hey, man, our offense looked pretty good out there,
I heard Matt Wells go in his presser, and I love Matt Wells. I don't hide that. But he was like, you know what? We did play well enough to be up 15 with 3:13 to go in the game. Like, we played pretty well. So I was like, you know what? That's kind of a good point. I'm sure that's what they've been preaching to their guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to go about it. I have a feeling that any of the teams that I played on, I cannot imagine Bob Stoops walking in and being like, "Hey guys,
I highly doubt that's what he said in the team meeting, but yeah,
if you
got to
look
win the
at
press
it,
conference. You got to
hey
win the
man,
press
we
conference.
played good enough to win the thing for 50 minutes of the affair." But no, I mean, hey, I think that Texas Tech. I trust Texas Tech's offense more than I do Kansas State's. If you look at Kansas State, this is not an excuse for our defense. They played fantastic except for 5 or 6 plays of the game. That's it. Other than that, they were pretty much great. Those plays cost them, and that's the way football goes. But Texas Tech consistently moved the football, was great through the air, was great on the ground against Texas. I trust that more than I do K-State right now.
Yeah. Bowman probably should take care of it a little better. He had 2 really
Throw it up
bad
to some of those dudes, man.
He had 2 really bad interceptions. But yeah, I'm with you. Won't be surprised when Tech goes to Manhattan and wins that game. All right, Ted, let's move on to our segments. Let's start with our winners and losers of the week. And Teddy's winners and losers are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. They'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. Their licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or lower energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. Tighten it up a little bit, people. You never know. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. All right, Ted, who do you have as your winner of the week?
Just whenever I thought coronavirus couldn't be any worse, couldn't ruin any more things, it goes and hits the NFL and the Titans and totally redeems itself.
Oh my gosh.
Tuesday Night Football, baby. Here we go. Is that not the greatest thing ever? Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Now, I know it's not planned as of yet. Maybe 2 Monday night games. Hopefully, the way you're looking at me, it hasn't already been announced that it's going to be on Monday or canceled.
I haven't heard. I think they're still in the discussion phase.
Tuesday Night Football. Come on. I think we even have time to put like a special song together. Carrie Underwood's not busy. Maybe we could find someone else to fill in. Let's go, man. Isn't that not the greatest thing ever?
So the latest news, and remember we're recording this on Wednesday night, the latest news from Pro Football Talk is that the Steelers-Titans could be nationally televised by CBS at 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday.
Oh,
so that basically creates
5
double
p.m. Eastern?
You're going to be right in the middle of your radio show there, bud.
The hell? Okay. I mean, 5 p.m. Eastern, what's that? 3 o'clock in the afternoon in California? Or 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
People in California don't work. It's fine.
Especially not on Mondays. Okay.
Well, we'll see. Nothing official yet, but it sounds like that's what some of the people at CBS have been told, that it's going to be Monday. Now, hopefully they can get us a better time. Actually, that's fine with me. Whatever. I'll take all the football I can get.
I'm down. I'll say
it's a good game too.
Yeah, it's
2-3-0
It's a really
teams.
good game. It's slightly better than, the late kick where you're up until, 1 a.m. watching the game. So, okay. But, hey, doubling up on Monday night, I guess that's a slot down from Tuesday Night Football. I was jacked about it. I was hoping they were going to, have a new song and everything.
Things could change. Things could change. Long time between now and Monday/Tuesday. All right, Ted, who do you have as your loser of the week?
I was shocked by this, and it's got to be one of the suckiest things I've ever heard of in all of sports. The Minnesota Twins have lost.
Hold on. Are we about to talk about baseball?
We are talking about baseball.
Oh
and
my God.
Anytime it's always going to be loser.
I will say these little 3-game series, kind of
Yeah.
awesome. I've watched a little bit. I refuse to talk about it though.
Whenever they're all going at the same time, it would be fun to sit in a sports book in Vegas and watch all that happening.
Or in the state of
be,
Oklahoma.
Right. It would be okay
nice
to watch it. It wouldn't be fun. I mean, baseball's never fun. But speaking of never fun, the Twins have lost 18 straight playoff baseball games, going all the way back to 2004. Amazing. That has to be the suckiest thing a fan base has ever had to endure. Every year, all right, baby, we're in the postseason. Here we go. Haven't even sniffed a win. 18 straight.
That's unbelievable. Now,
It's horrendous.
okay, my baseball memory is not tremendous, but that's what they get for building a stadium outdoors in Minnesota. That's what they get. I think it's still outdoors. I don't know. I haven't watched a Minnesota Twins game, and I have no idea the last time.
Yeah, baseball is not a cold weather sport. All it takes is one fastball in on the hands to jar that bat whenever it's 45 degrees outside to make you never want to do that again. But
Gross.
18 straight, almost, I think 13 of them have come by the Yankees. There's some Yankee haters up in Minnesota. That is horrible.
And we just talked baseball. How about that? All right, my winners and losers are brought to you by Sound Advice. A lot of us are watching our favorite football teams from home this season, which is why you need to get ready for game day with a home theater system from our friends at Sound Advice. Sound Advice can customize your home entertainment system indoors or outdoors. Sound Advice did the Wi-Fi network and all the audio visual, including the badass theater room at my new house, and it is fantastic. They hide all the water. There's no water involved.
Good thing.
God, I'm leaving it in. They hide all the wires and the cable boxes, so it looks great. I can also control every TV in my house from my phone, and my internet has been flawless. For the best home theater systems in the Oklahoma City area, call Sound Advice at 405-549-3880 or visit soundadviceokc.com. All right, Ted, my winner of the week, and I was going to do the Titans and Steelers because those guys get to miss a whole week of practice, and that would be awesome. But my winner of the week, and I'm going to need you to follow me, grass. Yes, grass. Now, I'm not talking about the grass that you can buy if you've got your card, and it seems like you can buy it about every 3 blocks here now in the state of Oklahoma. Different grass. We're talking about actual lush grass. JC Treader, former teammate of mine who is the president of the NFL Players Association, he came out with the statement, and first of all, he's a smart dude, a smart guy. He came out and said that all NFL teams should switch their fields to natural grass. Currently, there's 13 teams that have artificial turf, and he provided some alarming statistics that the NFL provided. I mean, this injury data to back up this request, like, it's almost unbelievable that they're still using artificial turf with how many non-contact injuries are that on turf compared to grass. I mean, you're talking knees, ankles, shoulders. I mean, it's everything. It's staggering. So I know it's hard to take care of grass during the winter. Like, I get it. Taking care of grass in January in New York is hard. Look at me putting one of the New York teams in the playoffs. What am I doing? But I get it. But it seems like something the league needs to consider seriously at this point in time. We've seen people complaining about the turf there at MetLife. But also, playing on turf sucks. It's the worst. It hurts, Teddy.
It's horrible.
I'm on the JC Treader train all grass in the National Football League. Sign me up.
No, 100%. They should have just had Snoop do the press conference or the announcement, because all I could think of whenever you were talking is what movie was it? Whenever he was caddying for one of the guys, and he's like, that's Alabama creeping Brent. You sure know a lot about grass. I know even more about weed. What movie is that? Come on, man. Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller.
Owen Wilson and Ben.
It's a remake from like the 70s where they're driving the hot rod cars.
Oh, Starsky and Hutch? Is that the right?
And Hutch,
God,
yes.
I haven't seen that movie in.
That's all I could think of.
I don't even remember Snoop Dogg being in that movie.
Yeah,
what was okay? Yes, I remember his. God, I have not watched that in a long time.
Horrible. But here's the thing. No, you're right. Turf sucks. It's horrible. And just whenever you thought the game was over and the pain is over, you go and get in the shower and find out how destroyed your skin is. And it feels like someone is taking a hot iron and pressing it against your body on a bunch of different places. It's horrible. The black rubber pellets get all in your face and in your mouth.
In your ass terrible. Crack. There's nothing worse. You're in the shower. You're just like, oh my gosh, what is that?
You're still finding rubber pellets on Wednesday, okay? I hate it. I love a good grass field is about the greatest thing ever. But there's some bad grass fields too.
That's a good point.
Soldier Field is horrible. It is so incredibly thick. It's awful. I get it, because of the weather and everything. But if at all possible, if you've got the weather to be able to pull it off, I mean, people want their star players playing in the NFL. That's what they want.
And
fantasy, for whatever reason, they want star players playing in the league, and they're sick of seeing so many guys hurt, and turf is playing a big factor in that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what J.C. Treader said in that release was that, listen, everyone wants the players to be healthier. Like, this isn't just the players, it's the teams, it's the GMs, it's the owners, it's everybody. So yeah, I'm definitely with you. And
did you ever see that? And it's been a long time since I've seen it, so some of my details may be a little hazy, but Real Sports had a thing on turf, and it was about women's soccer and cancer in goalies, and the connection they made between the high amount of women's soccer players that have cancer is the turf fields, and that they were always like diving and skint up on the turf fields. It was like it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I was shocked whenever I saw that. I was like, oh my God, I'm on a turf field every single day. And I never saw a follow-up. I haven't seen anything on it since, but whenever I watched it, I was like, oh my God. Well, that's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a little shocking. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was something in the rubber pellets that, the ground up rubber and tires or whatever it is.
Oh, that's awful. All right, my loser of the week. Now, the Minnesota Twins one that you just rolled out, that's pretty damn good. But I'm not sure if I have you beat, but this is pretty good. Does the name Jake Garcia mean anything to you, Ted? Jake Garcia. It probably shouldn't, because we're not big recruiting guys, but I saw this story, and it's it's truly ridiculous. So this kid is a 4-star quarterback that's committed to USC from the state of California. Now, they canceled high school football in the state of California. So what does Jake Garcia do? He goes, I'm going to move to Georgia to play my senior year of high school at Valdosta High, one of these prestigious programs in the state of Georgia. So he's like, this shouldn't be a problem. Well, the Garcias had to go to quite the extreme to make that work, because the Georgia High School Association has certain rules for eligibility for kids that move in like this. And So what do the Garcias do, Ted? Naturally, his parents dissolved their marriage. Yes, they got divorced so that this kid, and like they're doing fine, marriage is doing great. They got divorced so that they could kind of skate around these Georgia high school rules so their kid could play his senior year at Valdosta High. So, this was a story that made its rounds, and, we were all having fun with it, on radio, and it was goofy. We were like, hey, good for this kid. He gets to play his senior year. So they've gone through all of this. He plays in the opener, brings the team back from a deficit. They win the game. And then the next game, it gets pushed because of COVID concerns. The next game, this eligibility question, maybe a little injury, starts creeping up. And guess what? Remember, his parents got divorced so he could play. They ruled him ineligible. Yeah. The Georgia high school delegation, or whatever the hell it's called, it's like the association, their version of the OSSAA, decided, you know what? We don't think the Garcias are operating in good faith here. So you're ineligible. His parents got divorced so he could play, and now he can't even play. So what do you think they do with the marriage? Like, are they
I don't know. A couple of things first come to mind. If it's the dad that approaches the wife and says, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we dissolve the marriage? I gotta feel like that wouldn't go over very well. I mean, at least at first, it's like, are you trying to use this as a way to dissolve the marriage? That's the first thing that comes to mind. Sketchiness. The second thing that comes to mind is, what if pops or mom is like, hey, this is kind of nice. Hey,
kind of like my freedom.
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm not tethered anymore. Actually, we couldn't live together, obviously, or else they would smell what we're up to. I kind of like this new house I've got, new apartment. I like a little bit of freedom's not bad. I don't mind it. I wonder if they get back together. And the last thing I'll say is, I feel bad for the kid that he couldn't play in California.
Well, by the way, they have appealed. Valdosta High has appealed the Georgia High School Association's decision. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Well, here's my thing, though, man. And I know high school football is competitive, and there's good football being played, and this isn't Little League where everyone gets an opportunity. But he's a senior, and he moved into some random place in Georgia. And there's a quarterback there that most likely grew up with all these kids on that team, and maybe he's a senior too, and has worked his butt off with those kids in that program for years for an opportunity to play his senior year. And this dude moves in from out of town with his parents getting a fake divorce and everything, and he's just going to swoop in and steal your thunder and take over that team. So, I mean, I hate that for whoever the kid was that was going to play quarterback. But in the end,
I love a good conspiracy theory, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% imagine, like, the kid you're talking about, his parents are the ones that were like,
yeah,
hey, Georgia High School Association, maybe we should look into this. Like, because I'm with you. Like, that's bullshit. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, I would understand maybe if it's like one state over, maybe you're doing it like, I don't know who's playing high school football.
You're going to your cousin's high school.
It's Nevada.
Georgia.
Are they playing high school football in Nevada? I don't know. But yeah, going all the way to Georgia, especially when he's going to USC. I mean, it's just ridiculous. That's what you get, Garcia family. God,
I'm
not
shocked.
That serious.
Well, I don't know. It's
although I do kind of love that they love football that much.
Dude, I would have
respect it.
gone to the end of the world to play football my senior year if my season was being canceled. So I get
Same.
that end of it too.
All right, Ted, it is Thursday, but we wet the beak every episode now since the Thunder aren't playing basketball. But we're going to wet the beak, and that is brought to you by Tim Hughes Custom Homes. Are you looking to build your dream home? If so, Tim Hughes is the man you're looking for. Tim Hughes Custom Homes is a one-stop shop for all your home building needs. He can find you a lot. He can find you an architect. He'll find you financing. And, of course, he can build your dream home exactly the way you want it. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, Tim found my wife and me a lot. He found us an architect and built our new house. Tim and his team were so easy to work with. He is still helping us when we have questions about things around the house. He's also built several office buildings. So if your business is looking to build a custom office, Tim Hughes is your man. You can see Tim's custom builds throughout Gaillardia, Nichols Hills, Oak Tree, Stone Mill, and Rose Creek. It is a great time to build the house of your dreams. For more information and to see Tim's spectacular work, visit his Instagram page at Tim Hughes Custom Homes or visit timhughescustomhomes.com. Okay, so normally we wet the beak with Thursday night football, but I don't know about you, Ted. I didn't really feel like trying to pretend to care about the 0-3 Denver Broncos playing the 0-3 Jets. I just couldn't fake it. I'm a fake it till you make it guy, but I couldn't pretend that I cared about that football game. So let's look at one that a lot of our listeners care about, and that is the Cleveland Browns traveling to Dallas to take on the 1-2 Dallas Cowboys. Now, that Cowboys defense, they have been getting shredded the last couple of weeks, giving up 77 points in the last two games. There were some serious coverage busts in that Seattle game. I mean, how does Tyler Lockett get that open? I have no idea, but this game feels like it's going to come down to running games, right? It's going to come down to the Cowboys' ability to stop the Browns' running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And there's no doubt that the Browns are going to want to run it, right? They're going to want to neutralize Alden Smith, which, by the way, it's pretty cool seeing that guy come back and have the impact he's having. When I played against him at Missouri, whoa. We went to Missouri and lost. I think we were number one in the country at the time. That was fun. But DeMarcus Lawrence, and it sounds like he's banged up. We'll see if he's healthy enough to go. But they're not going to want those guys just teeing off on Baker. So they're going to want to get to that run game. Baker's certainly at his best when that run game is humming and he can operate in play action, especially when the defenses are starting to load the box against Chubb. Now, offensively for the Cowboys, it's been pretty good at times. We can talk about Dak, we can talk about Zeke, we can talk about Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, but I'm worried about that offensive tackle position for them because when you look at the Cleveland Browns, that Myles Garrett guy can rush. And right now they're not getting Lyle Collins back this week. And Tyron Smith's status is very much up in the air. Still hasn't practiced up to this point. So I know Zach Martin's arguably the best guard to ever play, but kicking him out to tackle, and Cleveland will line Myles Garrett up against him if he has to play right tackle. I just don't know. I think Zach is an unbelievable football player, but I'm sure the Cowboys would also like to not play out of like a double-digit hole for once this season. Cowboys are currently a 4.5-point favorite as we're recording this. Give me Cleveland. Man, the Cowboys are missing a lot of pieces, and I'm a big believer that, and I know that Cleveland has some O-linemen that have missed some practice this week as well, but man, I think this is a field goal game at least. So yeah, I'll take Cleveland. I mean, 4.5 with all the issues Dallas has right now. Give me the Browns. That run game, solid. And I just don't see it right now from Dallas on defense. I just don't.
Yeah. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I'm curious to see how Cleveland operates in a shootout. You know, if there's points being scored back and forth, and they've got to open up that offense, they're clearly way better whenever they are heavy run. Who's not? If you can rely on the heavy run and find your way through a football game, everyone would prefer to play it that way. But, you know, even though the offensive line is down for Dallas, the skill positions, and say what you want about Dak, man, he's going to put up yards, and I think Dallas is going to be able to score some points. But I do think it's going to be tight. If I had to pick it, I'd take Cleveland in the 4.5. I do think it's going to be a really tight game in the end. It's just crazy to think about this Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and you broke it down perfectly. But Tyron Smith starting to get up there in age. When they lost Frederick, that changed everything. It's, you know, for a couple of years there, it was like the envy of the league, how good that offensive line in Dallas was. And it's kind of falling apart a little bit.
I mean, you see Biadish out there, the rookie. You see Looney bumping over to guard, you know, Zach Martin bumping out to tackle. Like, that's not – you don't want your future Hall of Fame guard having to bump out to tackle. That's when you know things have gone very wrong for you, when you just talk about who you have available. The Steele kid, he's been disappointing. Let's just be honest. Like, it's just their O-line's not in a good spot right now. They're just not.
Tyron Smith was their lockdown dude, and he was a badass for like a 4 or 5 year stretch, like as good as anyone in the NFL. And he's just started to pile up the injuries, man. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be incredibly tight. If I'm getting 4.5 in Cleveland, I'll take it.
Yeah. I would expect Zeke to have a few more yards than he did last week against Seattle, but we'll see.
I mean, Dak is leading the NFL in yards, but he only has 5 touchdown passes. Right. So he's having a hard time finding the end zone right now for whatever reason, you know, compared to some of the other guys in the league. So I don't know. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, which means it's going to be like a 17-14 snoozer.
Hopefully not, because I'm pretty excited for that game. All right, let's finish up with everybody's favorite segment. That's Keeping It Local, where we highlight what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. And that's brought to you by Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. As schools are reopening in the fall, parents want to provide the best possible educational experience and spiritual development for their children. There's no better place for that than Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. A 1-to-1 iPad setting makes McGinnis students fully prepared to continue high-level learning from home if necessary. A 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio guarantees no student is overlooked. In addition to athletic programs and clubs, Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. Financial aid is available. For more information, visit bmchs.org. Okay, I am not going to pretend like I know anything about the energy industry, but people I know that know a lot about it are excited about this merger. So Devon Energy and WPX Energy are merging. They are both Oklahoma companies. They're going to keep the Devon name, and it sounds like it's going to be headquartered here in Oklahoma City. I'm not really sure what that means for the WPX headquarters that's getting finished up, that new build there in Tulsa. We'll see. But like I said, I don't know much about this stuff. But from what I've read and what I've been told, this is a huge deal for the state of Oklahoma, and this merger makes the company a big player in the industry. I understand that there's some logistics to work through, especially when it comes to employees and all that, and the executives, and I wish all those people the best of luck. I got no idea how that's going to shake out, but I know these companies have been hit hard by falling energy prices. We know how much of an impact that has on this state. And it sounds like these companies teaming up is a good thing. So once again, I don't know what I'm talking about really, but smart people I know expressed a lot of excitement about this. Teddy, is this in your wheelhouse? This something you want? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's gonna. I know it's good, right?
Here's what I do know, and this all predates the coronavirus stuff that hit in mid-March. It was not looking good for a lot of the oil and gas businesses before that, and there was a lot of talk about Devon not doing so well and really slowing down a lot of their operations in Oklahoma. And then the coronavirus stuff hit, so that made it even more difficult. So the fact that you're getting a merger between a couple of well-known companies, going to turn into one of the biggest shale producers out there in the business, I think that's a positive for Oklahoma. I think it's a positive for Oklahoma City, and it's going to just fuel the rift between Tulsa and OKC, baby. I love it.
Gotta love the rivalry. Now, one thing I think we do a good job of, we don't pretend to know a bunch about the stuff that we don't know. So if you are kind of an expert in mergers or in energy companies, or if you can tweet me and Teddy at Ted Lehman 11 at Gabe Ikard, and tell us kind of explain it to us like you'd explain it to a 5-year-old, basically why this is good, or maybe you don't think it's good. Maybe you think it's bad. Just let us know. I want to learn more about it. I've read quite a bit about it, but there's a bunch of big words, so
I want to know what it means for my Devon shares and my WPX shares with this merger. Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing?
It sounds from what I've read, and I'm kind of an idiot, it sounds like that's one of the main things people are excited about. Hey, this is good for the shareholders. So
is this a sell or a buy?
A great question for someone that listens to this podcast that knows anything about this.
I've always been told, buy the rumor, sell the news. So maybe I've already missed my opportunity. I don't know, but I think this is fantastic.
I think it's fantastic because people seem excited. I'm not sure. Let us know. Tweet us.
Let's ride the wave of excitement, baby.
Yeah. Let's go. All right, Ted. Episode 47 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday morning. We will be recapping the OU Iowa State game. Hopefully it's a little more fun than the last recap episode. Hopefully. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400, and you can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, Channel 375 from 3 to 5. Hope you all have a great weekend. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening, and do what you always do, Oklahoma.